Right, I thought I'd start this presentation actually doing a very, very short video which captures pretty much all a lot of the major sectors and opportunities. So if the technical things are working okay, you should come on automatically. Right, now I don't really have to do my presentation, so that pretty much covers everything. But seriously, this is basically just to give you an idea, this video, of like some of the broad opportunities that exist in this particular market. I mean, here are just a few classic statistics of some of the reasons that the UK government is taking Mexico very seriously, and we see it as a key priority market over the next 15 to 20 years. I mean, 1 out of every car sold in the US is made in Mexico. The richest man actually happens to be Mexican. His name's Carlos Slim, if you're not already aware. One of the world's 7th largest oil producer, principal global destination for aerospace manufacturing projects. And again, Mexico had a very strong presence at the Paris Air Show in Le Bourget, and has continued to develop its supply chain there. And Bombardier and others are moving aggressively into these markets, as are other suppliers. And just out of interest, as it states there, the second or the largest producer of smartphones worldwide. For example, I think pretty much most of the BlackBerries are actually manufactured now in that market, and one of the largest exporters of TVs. So why is this all taking place? Well, as the video depicted quite clearly, Mexico is a very large, diverse country with enormous potential. A great geographical proximity, given that it's right on the doorstep of the US, which is one of the largest economy in the world, and of course the benefits of NAFTA as well, with Canada, another very important trading partner for Mexico, and of course all these exciting markets which are developing in Central and South America, particularly Brazil, which is growing actually at a faster rate than Mexico, but it's also creating great opportunities for growth as well for that market. And it happens to be the only country in Latin America which is part of the OECD. Just out of this very little graph, I just want to mention that what's quite interesting is Goldman Sachs and The Economist, they did a little analysis, and they discovered that by 2040 to 50, Mexico would actually have a larger economic size than the UK. Again, another reason that we're aggressively looking at ways of increasing our trade and investment relationship with the country, because they will be a major player in the global market over the next 20 years. And when I was first in Mexico, which was about 10 or 15 years ago, I was quite struck by quite an unstable economic environment. That's really completely changed since about 1995, after the tequila crisis, and we're now seeing more of an economic type of base, which you would commonly see in a more developed or Western type developed economy. Very low inflation, high reserves, and a very good parity with the exchange rate. And again, the GDP growth predictions are looking very favorable. I believe for this year we're looking around 4.55% growth, and again, inflation less than 5%, 4%. And also what's interesting is just the sheer potential. Although we're one of the largest investors in the country, in Mexico, 4th or the 5th, actually our export balance is actually quite low. That's obviously because Mexico's most important trading partner is the US. Over 80%, 90% of its trade, certainly in the north, goes directly to that country. So in the European traders are at the moment, it's a very small market share. So we see this as a great area of opportunity where we have an opportunity to tap into that. And the same for Mexico's exports as well. Again, it's a similar picture. We've already talked about the geographical advantages, and it's not just with the North American markets, with South America, Brazil, but also the fact that we have a European free trade agreement between Mexico and the European Union, which means that pretty much most industrial goods can be traded at 0% tariffs and quotas, but also its geographical proximity to Asia and China as well, sitting right there. So it's certainly a market that needs to be looked at very seriously now. And a very interesting growing infrastructure project. I mean, not only airports, but also commercial ports on both sides of the coasts. A very, very ambitious infrastructure plan was announced a few years ago during President Calderon's sexennial, or 6-year term, and this has now come on stream. I think the key thing to mention about this massive infrastructure program, 226 billion, is that it encompasses the whole country, and it's very important that foreign companies participate in the program. So again, it's providing opportunities for a lot of British companies in that area. And of course, it's natural resources. Second largest producer of silver in the world. We're seeing a lot of growth and development in the mining sector. One of the most diverse countries in the world. Huge and growing agricultural capacity. It already has a traditional market in those areas. And the oil and gas reserves, which I might talk about a bit later. But again, now we're seeing the Pemex, which is the equivalent of Petrobras, opening up its markets to the point where now British companies can actually put forward actual tenders. So this is going to be a massive area of opportunity for British companies this year, and we're already seeing British companies, not just the traditional BPs and Shells, but also the Tier 2, Tier 3 suppliers, look at opportunities in that market in terms of expanding their operations and tapping into those billion-dollar contracts which are going to be tendered this year and next year for both onshore and offshore. And of course, there's the human capital aspect, particularly for those companies that want to tap into expertise. Over 2,000 higher educational institutions, for example. We're seeing millions of graduates in advanced engineering graduates, which I think is a key aspect. And the fact that the population is a very young demographic, which means we're going to see naturally just growth of 4 or 5% just by the sheer age of the population. And English is widely spoken, obviously, because they're most important trading partners with America. So these guys are used to trading with the US, they're used to trading with Canada and other English-speaking countries. So again, that's another competitive advantage to the country and for the UK. And again, as some of the other presenters mentioned, some of the key opportunity sectors, aerospace is one, where the government, and that's obviously key for the UK as well. The automotive sector is another. Basically, pretty much the same number of cars that are manufactured in the UK are manufactured there. The UK is the major manufacturing platform for Europe, and Mexico is one of the major manufacturing platforms for the North American market as well. So again, there's certain synergies if there are automotive companies here that are already supplying to the major guys, the major, GM, etc., Nissan in the UK, Honda, then you might find similar synergies in the Americas market as well. And we work closely with our US partners on this, and we attend all the shows there. Financial services, again, that's a growing market, and again, obviously, the UK has a strong interest there, and oil and gas, as I mentioned already, because of our links with Aberdeen. Retail, environment, IT, electric and electronic, all major important sectors where there are great opportunities. I just want to touch on the business culture in Mexico. We've named it as the 4 Ps, rather like the marketing class, your marketing module at college. But the people, essential to the people really are key to this. Your presence in the market, that makes a big difference. If you have a representative there, you have an agent there, a distributor, but actually the face-to-face contact is critical in doing business in Mexico. And to be patient. It is a tough market in the sense patience, and it does take time to develop those links, but once those links are there and you persevere, we found that companies can be extremely successful. And just very briefly, just to give you a bit of geographical coverage of where we are, my name is Jonathan Clare. I'm the Consul and Director of our UK Trade Investment in Monterey, which is that little pin on the north there. I've got my colleague here, Van Ramirez, who's going to take a quick bow. He's based in Guadalajara. He's just here at the front. And our main operation, of course, is based out of Mexico City, British Embassy. But we have an office in Tijuana as well because of the trade corridor between Southern California, in particular in the aerospace sector, and the north of Mexico. And as the other presenters mentioned, a whole range of services. Pretty much we can provide you with any kind of support or service that you may require. If we can't, we know somebody who can. And right, that's the end. I wanted to keep it very brief, but of course we'll be available all day, myself and Ivan, to answer any questions. And we have our booth. This is the same as the other commercial trade offices here. So thank you very much for your time.